The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parent's consent.
What's up, beautiful people of YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. My name is Elario, and today I'm back with the amazing video and check out with you guys. This is called Amazing Donald Trump's Gender Bill Receives Praise. You know the drill, guys. We talk less and we react more. Let's check this out.
Well, when I ask people why they object to Donald Trump, they invariably say that he's a misogynist and he's sexist.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell was unable to join us tonight, but we do have Women's Forum Australia CEO Rachel Wong, and she's thrilled that Trump won the election. Rachel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great to have you with us. What do you say to those people who insist Trump's a misogynist as a woman? How could you be excited about him being the next president?
Look, as I was just saying to you guys before, I have my own personal reservations about Trump and his past behaviour and past comments and all that kind of thing. But I think to simply say that, oh, if you voted for Trump, you must be a misogynist, you must be a sexist or a racist or whatever other kind of pejorative language, I think that's just far too shallow look at the situation, and part of the reasons the Dems lost in the first place because they couldn't actually see the bigger picture. And the reality is the people who were voting for Trump weren't necessarily even voting for him personally at all. It's because of the policies, because of his pushback against, you know, the radical leftist ideologies, including radical gender ideology. You know, he's talking about restoring women-only sports, banning the medical transitioning of kids, and then all the really everyday issues like economics and, you know, immigration, all those kinds of things. So I think people can, you know, use the name calling, but I think it shows they haven't learnt anything from this election, which is that over half the country actually want change, and just calling those people names is not going to get them the result they want.
Absolutely. And look, speaking of that, because he's already really getting on with the job, as he said that he would, he has announced that he will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that only genders recognised by the US government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. This is what he said.
The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parent's consent.
Rachel, how heartening is that to hear?
It's amazing. And what I think's really incredible is that this clip is actually from over a year ago. I hadn't realised this till recently, but he ran his entire campaign along with a bunch of other issues, specifically on the gender ideology madness. And people overwhelmingly voted for him because of that. You know, he said he's going to get gender ideology out of schools, out of government. He's going to stop the transing of kids. He's going to restore parental rights, restore women's sex-based rights. And that's what the American people wanted. So I think it's incredible. And what's more incredible is that the entire time he's getting vilified day in and day out by the mainstream media. People voted for him regardless. So I think even that in itself is incredibly hopeful because people are clearly breaking through that mainstream media propaganda where they've been told day in and day out that this person's bad, this person's evil, you know, they hate whoever, and they're looking into things themselves and realising, no, these are the policies we want for our country.
One of the things I thought was really interesting was Trump was very willing to talk about trans issues, whereas Kamala Harris, who's very supportive of trans ideology, she did not want to speak about it at all. So I want to ask you, do you think Trump's willingness to talk about protecting women's sport, to protecting women's private spaces will encourage Peter Dutton to take up that issue here in Australia? And do you think for the Liberals that could be a vote winner if they were courageous enough to actually speak about it?
I absolutely think it could be a vote winner, and I think for any politician that decides to campaign on women's sex-based rights and child safeguarding when it comes to, you know, puberty blockers, surgeries, cross-sex hormones, I think that the US has shown that people don't want these things. We're getting contacted day in and day out from parents around the country who are sick of their children being indoctrinated in schools, sick of their kids being trans behind their backs, some who have had their kids forcibly taken off them from the state, who are having their daughters injured by boys in sports. So these parents, I think, are going to rise up. The women as well who have had their sex-based rights jeopardised, who have had their single-sex sports taken away, their single-sex spaces and services, and who are, you know, being sued or otherwise facing reprisals for speaking out on this, they are going to be rising up as well. And so I think absolutely it's going to be an election issue next year at the federal election, and I welcome that.
Yeah, I feel like the US election has started this conversation finally. Yeah. It's a conversation that the world really needed to have, so it's certainly positive.
Well, to be fair, more redeeming and others were
more redeeming. Rachel Wong has been very vocal. Yes.
Maybe the wall's about to break.
Fingers crossed. Rachel, we want to ask you on another matter about Iman Khalif, of course, the boxer who won gold at the Olympic Games. And your report has claimed that she is indeed a biological man. That's according to a French leaked MRI, which claimed that the boxer lacked a uterus, had internal testes, and has quote unquote a micro penis. Now, Khalif is taking this to court. She's filed legal action threatening to sue. But I mean, these are pretty serious claims. Should this be investigated?
I think it absolutely needs to be investigated properly. But to be honest, I think there are new reports that are coming out, are just confirming things that a lot of us have known for a long time. This person is a biological male. They have XY chromosomes. I think what happened during the Olympics was unfortunate, where people misunderstood it for a transgender issue. I don't think Khalif is trans. I think Khalif is someone who probably has a disorder of sexual development, was brought up as female, then went through male puberty, and actually now shouldn't be competing in women's events, obviously because of safety and fairness issues, but because of the International Olympic Committee's policies, which basically says if you identify as a woman, you can compete in the women's events, was allowed to compete in those events to the disadvantage of those females who are involved. So I think it is on the International Olympic Committee to sort this out and to change its policies. And I think this is a case in point for why that has to happen. Otherwise, this kind of thing is just going to continue happening. And the litigation and the lawsuits are going to continue happening as well. And we've seen that happen in Australia as well, where women who speak out against males in their spaces, in their sports as well, are getting hit with lawsuits, vilification claims, all that kind of thing. So
it opens up, I was going to say, opens up the door. This is a problem because especially, and you and I have just spoken about self-ID laws in the past. It just opens up litigation, and you can't say anything because suddenly you're hauled in front of a tribunal if you even try and speak out against this. This is the problem. This is where we're heading in this country.
It's just amazing to me that, I mean, the Paris Olympics were so long ago and this issue is still unresolved.
Yeah.
It's outrageous that they haven't determined it one way or another, not just for the Olympic Games results, but for the future of women's sports, where this will be used as a precedent.
100%.
Rachel Wong, always good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Rachel.
You see? I guess most people are finally getting what I call a wake-up call, you know? This gender bill that Donald Trump has passed or is going to pass when he's fully elected into office is one of the key solutions to solving the gender ideology menace. You know, for your child to be tranced behind your back, that's just the height of it. Children are being indoctrinated daily. I mean, everyone, or rather, literally every reasonable parent has tried to complain about it. But as I said, you talk on this, you're filed with lawsuits and all that. Even on the issue of women's sports. You see, even they confirm that due to this particular policy that Donald Trump has put in place, or wants to put in place when he's fully elected as president, that the whole world will finally begin to view that particular thing as a talking point. You know, they will start to look more into it. Because it isn't right. Kids are not, for any reason whatsoever, they are not to be tranced. That's so wrong. I can't even begin to emphasize on how wrong this is, but it's so wrong. You can't tell a child that they are not in their right body, or all manner of nonsense that they feed them. I'm 100% happy that Donald Trump is going to pass this into bill. And I believe that once this is in place, once this particular bill is in place in America, then a lot of gender ideology problems will be addressed. And parents will have, you know, more control over what goes on in their kids' life. Because honestly, the idea of having to see your girl child go to school in the morning and then a few hours later she comes back as a boy. It could be maddening for someone who doesn't support that. It would be so maddening. And on the issue of women's sports, that same bill, Donald Trump actually cited that only two genders will be recognized in America, male and female. Now, on the standing on that, it's safe to say that trans females or trans males will not be allowed in either sport. Trans females won't be allowed to go to female bathrooms. Trans females won't basically be allowed to do anything that a biological female is allowed to do. And I think that's the best thing. You can see the controversy on Iman Khalif, the boxer that won the Olympics. Talks of her being a biological male and all that. Well, Miss Rachel actually explained that it could have been a disorder or something of the sort. Some people are actually born with two organs, hermaphrodites, that's what they call them. But even those two organs, at a certain point, you see that one is dysfunctional and it would be removed. So basically, as I said, that issue is still unresolved. But she said normally that's Iman Khalif, wouldn't have been allowed to compete if the rules of the Olympics were not very flexible. What they said is as long as you identify as a female. So that means even trans females are free to compete in those sports. So she believes that the solution to this would just be for them to redress that particular policy and make it a bit rigid to make sure that only biological females are allowed to play women's sports. And honestly, that should be the case because a trans man still has his internal characteristics, the strength, the agility, the bone density, the reasons are listless as to why they shouldn't be allowed to compete in female sport. But I guess the solution to all this, or the first step to the solution to all this, is going to be this gender bill that Donald Trump is going to put in place. I really can't wait for it to unfold. Now goes, guys, you just drop your comments in the comment section. And if you're just joining us for the first time, please click that bell button to whenever I drop a new video on this channel. And remember to leave a thumbs up at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching and stay safe, yo.